What's happening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with yours, Kwame Fisher-Jones. As always, I am him. So the San Francisco 49ers lost the Super Bowl. Yeah, it happens. At least they made it there, right? Or so you would be led to believe. But instead of coming back, licking their wounds, and trying to get stronger in the offseason, they have decided that, you know what they're going to do? They're going to fire Steve Wilkes. They're going to fire their defensive coordinator. And as soon as the news broke, the first thing that came across my mind was this is why the 49ers can't have nice things. And no, not because of a bad defense, not because of defense that finished third in points allowed, not because of a defense that held 11 teams under 20 points in a 17-game schedule, and 6 of those 11 teams. So hold on, let me run that again. Team that finished third in points allowed in the NFL. They held 11 of their 17 opponents over under 20 points. This is in a scoring league, in a passing league, where points are at a premium, where teams get 5 points just for showing up with matching uniforms. The 49ers defense, led by Steve Wilkes, managed to hold 11 of those 17 opponents under 20 points. And 6 of those 11 were playoff teams. But, see, the problem there is when you follow your leader is how can I phrase it? When your leader subscribes to the Silk the Shocker philosophy. For my puppies out there who don't know who Silk the Shocker is, Silk the Shocker was a rapper for No Limit Soldiers from No Limit record group. His number one hit was "It Ain't My Fault," and that is Kyle Shanahan's mantra throughout his privileged NFL coaching career. It's the Sean McDermott mantra. Buffalo, fire the offense, go fire the defense, go fire the step out there. It ain't my fault. We learn it ain't my fault. And before you go, oh, well, no, that's not the case. You try to knock on warts on Steve Wilkes. Let me ask you a question. Let's dig a little deeper in Kyle Shanahan. Trey Lance, ain't my fault. I drafted no other. It ain't my fault. Jimmy Garoppolo, ain't my fault. That wasn't my fault. One trade from, it ain't my fault. So let's pull the legs back. Come journey with me a little bit more. Gather around my fire a little bit more. Donovan McNabb, it ain't my fault. You remember Donovan McNabb, right? He brought in Rex Grossman, who he coached in Houston, to replace McNabb because McNabb didn't have the what was it? Wait for it. Cardiovascular endurance to run the Shanahan offense. When you think about it, the Shanahan offense was started from his daddy, which we'll journey into a little later. The only one who could run that was John Elway. Everyone else has failed mightily at running this faulted Shanahan offense. But let's continue to journey through the "it ain't my fault" players. RG3, it ain't my fault. Was spark when he first started, but again, it ain't my fault. Remember how dope Johnny Manziel was at A&M? Where he sucked in the NFL. Who was his offensive coordinator when he was in Cleveland? I'll wait. See, disaster always manages to strike more than once. Offensive coordinator was Kyle Shanahan. Yet again, ladies and gentlemen, say it with me. It ain't my fault. Blown 28-3 third quarter Super Bowl lead with the Atlanta Falcons. 21-3 coming out of halftime. It ain't my fault. Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, ain't my fault. So many more examples I can go into, but there's no reason to because I think you get the gist, the journey, the point, the premise of which I'm bringing to you. See, the problem when you're born into privilege, the problem when you're given things in life, you don't understand the pride it takes in the struggle. Well, why is Kyle Shanahan? He earned his position. Did he? Did he really? Did he really? Because see, when Pappy is a poster child or the Mr. NFL, the guy who is the talk of the town. See, when daddy, that's your daddy, that gets you an opportunity that you don't have to fight for. See, the Houston Texans, when Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator, but somehow, when changes were made, he landed smack dab on his feet in Washington. With a guy who had been to 5 NFC championship games, all of a sudden, that dude can't play. He'll get rid of him. Wasn't me. Exactly. Then you bring in RG3, first dual threat that we had seen in the NFL, poised to have success, put Baylor on the map. We ain't heard from Baylor since. Hey, we ain't heard from Baylor since RG3 left the building. Started out pure athleticism, great player. Didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? Well, there's a lot of reasons why it didn't work out. Also, could be because you drafted a quarterback. Well, let's fast forward. Again, remember when I said disaster manages to always strike more than once? Trey Lance, one of the top prospects coming in the NFL. And you draft him. You give up the farm to get him. And what also do you draft with him? You're going to hand. See, here's the thing. You're going to hand me the keys, but you're going to give the security code to the other dude. How am I going to be successful? Well, you got to compete. You're a rookie. You ain't had any success in the NFL. The most success you've had in the NFL is getting a check with a team's name on it. That's the level of your success. On the field, you got to prove it. And again, you gave Trey Lance, you gave RG3, you gave Donovan McNabb key to the franchise. But you gave Rex Grossman, you gave Kirk Cousins, and you gave Brock Purdy the security code to get in as well. Now, when things don't go their way with those dudes, it ain't your fault. See, there's a phrase, you don't want to plan to fail, but you don't want to fail to plan. How about not failing at all? How about hitching your wagon to a guy and saying, this is the dude I'm going to rock with? I'm saying, we didn't lose because Steve Wilkes didn't get it done or wasn't a good fit. We lost because my offensive scheme allowed Brock Purdy to get his head rocked in Philly, and then allow Chris Jones to come through the lineup not once, to come through the offensive line not once, but twice in critical moments. But see, you don't do that when it's never your fault. See, you don't do that when you don't point it to yourself. You only do that when you're born on third base and you can't manage to get home. And that's the problem with Shanahan. And even if you don't want to believe, that's not how he thinks. Even if you don't want to believe that when you look back to that Super Bowl and say 21-3, going into halftime, coming out of halftime, 21-3, 28-3, we got it. Oh. Now is when you make a chance to adjust. That's when you change things. Shanahan really believes he's like a tortured genius shackled by inferior minds. Because wherein lies the issue? 28-3, you're winning. Make an adjustment. Change. See, all of those people I named, you can point to flaws in their game because no one walking this surface is perfect. You can point to Donovan McNabb's shortcomings in the NFC title game. You can point to RG3's failure to get healthy and know the playbook. You can point to Jimmy Garoppolo's prevention to date. I won't go there. But you can point to some things with Jimmy Garoppolo. You can point to some things with Trey Lance. You can point to some things with every quarterback he's had. Here's the issue, though. Is it always their fault? You always got to eat with that fork? You always got to sit at that side of the table? You always got to sleep with those sides? You can adjust, or is it that you won't? Problem with privilege is it doesn't know struggle. See, in any type of struggle, any type of success, you got to make adjustments on the fly because it don't go that way. The lighting ain't going to go that way. Sometimes there's traffic. And you could be prepared through the struggle that you've been successfully able to navigate through. See, it doesn't get easier, Coach Shanahan. You could have the greatest quarterback in the world. It doesn't get easier. The challenges change. And you recognize that through the success of your troubles. You fired Steve Wilkes. You fired him at possibly the worst possible time to fire a guy because most coordinators are out reviewing tape. Most coordinators are out analyzing the NFL Combine. Most coordinators have been brought back. It's very unlikely he'll get another high-level job. He'll probably have to be a position coach. But again, that ain't Kyle's fault. And before you say, well, maybe it was John Lynch he didn't get along with, again, always her fault, coach. It's never your fault. You can't change the side of the bed once. You can't change sheets once. You can't cook something once. Or is it that you won't? Is it that you believe you are beyond reproach? Is it that you believe that you are so smart that you are the smartest man in the room? The smartest man in the room knows he's not the smartest man in the room, and that's what makes him smart. I'll say that again a little slower for you. In order to be the smartest man in the room, you have to understand you're not the smartest man in the room. And just because you don't agree with someone doesn't mean you have to expel them from the building. Kyle Shanahan has as many Super Bowl titles as I do. Well, no, he's got two. His nepotism has afforded him two. And those two championships have given him carte blanche to run rampant on coaches and players that whose talent and whose success far exceeds anything he's achieved in his career. Next on the docket for It Ain't My Fault, Brock Purdy. Purdy, the darling of the NFL. He didn't want to lose a Super Bowl because of him. Did you ask Coach Shanahan? Did you ask the tortured genius who's already ridded you of so many inferior minds how great Brock Purdy is? No, we haven't. Great thing about noon is it always seems to come. You know, 6 teams under 20 points that were playoff contenders. Not good enough. In a league where teams score for will, for fun, because their cleats are sharp, not good enough. Because Kyle Shanahan got all the answers. We're going to see. We're going to see. And when he comes up blank again, when he's standing at third base and can't manage to get home, we'll all know who the real problem is, whose fault it really belongs to. That's it for this episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with your host, Kwame Fisher-Jones. If you like the show, enjoy the podcast, make sure you share, subscribe to whatever your podcast platform allows you to do. And as always, I appreciate your time here. You be easy.